All right, let's give the clap. It's a weak clap. Like every time in my head, I'm like, do it right. Give a big manly clap. And then
let your clap be its self.
Let your clap be its girly self.
It has no gender. It's just a clap. It's just a little.
It's clap, and it's as valid as any other clap.
It is.
Hi, and welcome to the Inner Moxie Podcast, a podcast about not one, but two neurodivergent adults trying to live their best life on the neuro D-list and not hate themselves in the process. I'm your host, Ronnie.
And I'm Zanny.
And this week, we will be talking about RSD.
Rejection Sensitivity Dysphoria.
Thank you. I mean, technically, we're already rolling, so beyond ready to roll.
We are ready to... I want to rock. Okay. How's your Moxie meter this week?
It is doing not great.
Oh, no.
I was going to say pretty well, almost out of habit. And then I realized, no, it's not. One of the things that threw me off, just literally right before probably we cut into this episode, is you did the I want to rock.
You're welcome.
And that every time I think about that in my head as somebody asking for a rock. And that makes me giggle. I want to rock. A what? Rock.
Cool. Here.
That has nothing to do with my Moxie meter,
No.
but that's why I was like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
You're welcome.
But, yes. No, but overall, I'm gonna give it a 2.
No.
I
mean, okay.
the main issue stems from I was doing not so great with my medications. Mm-hmm. I'd ran out and then I ordered some, and then you have to go down to pick them up because they won't ship ADHD meds. And so today I was like, time to get back on top of everything. My kids went back to school starting yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I was like, you know what? Time to get back. All of this is settled. Put your medication away. So I went to go get my medication, which I left on the table, and it's just completely fucking gone.
No.
Yeah. And I asked my wife if she knew where it was. She said no. And so I'm thinking either got kicked somewhere under a couch or just got thrown away during a cleanup section. It was still in the white bag. One of my kids might have just there. When it's clean up, they're sure. And they just throw everything we own into trash cans. And so that might have happened to it. So I'm still going to give another hearty look for it tomorrow. But I was literally today, I'm starting to feel this loss of medication. Let's add it back into my little things. Let's make sure I have an afternoonie for today. And I went to do it, and it was just gone. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because not only do I not have it, but now I have to ask for more, which would be bad enough if it was my bodily health medication, because I'm weird and socially anxious. But it'd usually be emails. But I have a feeling that this is going to be hard because it's still a class 2 controlled narcotic. Like cocaine. I get it that kids snort Adderall or, abuse, but it's in a ridiculous place how we treat it. Anyway, point is, I just feel like it's going to be a nightmare for me to try and get, because it was a brand new bottle that I just picked up. And even then I picked it up a couple of days late because it took a couple of days to fill the prescription. It's better now, but it's been a tough year on people who need ADHD meds. Mm-hmm. And so feeling the loss of that. And then now I have this mounting thing in front of me that I have to do. And because it's to get my medication, I don't have my medication to do it, which just makes it feel like such a more daunting task. And then I know this is dumb, but then I stayed up late last night, not knowing I didn't have medication for the morning. And so this morning I was tired and I didn't have my medication, and I was grah. So I'm like self-medicating with Monster Energy drink, which is not good for the body stuff that I take medication for. And it's just, it's a kerfuffle. I mean, I'm earning that E rating, but it is a kerfuffle. And so that is, I mean, that's life. That is where it is. But that puts me in the 2 ranking for this week.
Yeah. I mean, I hear that.
Yeah.
I hope that I understand what you mean when you have this big thing in front of you and you're just like, this is probably going to suck. And I don't want to start it because I don't want to feel sucky.
Yeah.
And you're stuck in that like loop maybe.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that would help me with that is the thing I have to get. It's like if somebody buried my shovel and now I have to get my shovel, it'd be like, well, it'd be really helpful for this. My shovel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah. How's your Moxie meter doing this week?
I mean, honestly, fucking fantastic.
Nice.
Sorry to say that to your 2.
No. Honestly, I have never been never's wrong. I'm rarely a misery loves company person. It makes me feel better when my friends are doing well.
Okay. I mean, I also don't want to be like, oh, I'm not going to say the good stuff because your life is not great right now. Like, my story has nothing to do with medication, so it won't. Anyway, whatever.
Well, and also,
I'm not a gloaty person either. So.
And also, I mean, this is a fairly structured part of our interaction. That's
True.
What we're supposed to say at these junctures,
True. Yes. By fucking fantastic, though, I guess. I mean, I have not ranked myself. I try to rate myself every day. Multiple times a day. I do the rate.
Like how you're feeling?
Like 0 to 10.
Yeah.
I write out the time and then what the feeling or the whatever. And the feeling is the weird part. I write weird stuff in there.
I guess when you say rank yourself 0 to 10, does 0 mean I feel shitty or does 0 mean I'm a piece of shit?
0 means just I couldn't be worse, whatever that means.
Okay. But it is how you feel, not how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. Like when I'm asking myself this, it's okay. Am I anxious? Am I, that hasn't really been the thing lately. It's been more of like, am I irritable? Not really, except for a little bit last hand. And you know what? My fucking fantastic is actually great because like the beginning of last week, as in a Tuesday to Tuesday thing, was not so great. Well, just AC related. My house just stayed 90 degrees for a couple days. Anyway, that's all fixed.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
so
really horrible. I was like, if this can't get fixed on Friday, I'm going to a hotel. I can't do it, and I'm going to bring my cat. So fuck you. Like, I'm just going to do it. No.
Or
so
you could go go to a cat motel and you just stay with the cat there.
What?
Never mind.
Okay.
I was being silly.
Oh,
just
well, that would be fun.
Goose.
Not a cat house. I didn't know what that was when I went to. Anyway,
you got to finish that story when you went to visit.
No. Area 51. Area 51. There's this one part we stopped. This was my birthday trip to the haunted clown motel, and then we were just driving.
Supposedly haunted.
I'm saying yes.
I know, but you didn't get any ghosts. I remember.
I wasn't looking for ghosts. I mean, I got some activity. Not what we're talking about though. We stopped at Area 50, like a stop, they have these, and there was a cat house, right? Okay. Which now I know that means whorehouse or
legalized brothel would probably be
but it's not a real one. It's like,
okay.
Yeah. But I asked the people that work there, and I don't know. We were in like the area, just the gift shop. It's just a big gift shop. Okay. And I was buying a shirt, and I was like, oh, where are all the cats? And that's a cat house. And my friend Darren was like, oh my God. He didn't run away from me, but he probably wanted to. But yeah, that's that story.
I was confused at first because Nevada is, I don't know if you know this or not, is the only state in the United States that has legalized brothels. Yeah,
I know that.
And so like I thought that you actually stumbled into a cat house thinking it was like a cat cafe.
No.
Which, by the way, if you've never been to, you should go to. It's absolutely fabulous.
Okay, I'll do that.
They used to have one in Brea, but it closed.
Oh. Anyway, so that's that story. I don't remember where I was, but I think I haven't rated myself at a 9, but I would say right now I've realized I am at a 9.
Nice,
and there's many
yay.
things to say. I also got a weird 36-hour sickness.
That's right.
Fever, I felt sore down into my bones, which is doesn't always happen when I get anything. So just I just gotta chill. My brain, I just lay down. I didn't get to the task I was supposed to do because I was I have my last Disney appointment ever on Monday and I want to go. So I
Disney appointment?
Yeah, you have to reserve it to go to Disneyland.
Oh,
I'm a pass holder.
Oh, that's just how the pass holder works?
Yes. Also,
by the way, forever they had the annual pass holder or something. What did the stickers say? I remember it was
or something.
Yeah, it was AVP.
Yeah.
And
I don't have that sticker.
I don't know what that sticker stood for, but it always confused me because I saw it and I was like, well, those are Mickey Mouse ears. But AVP, the only definition I knew for it was Alien versus Predator. Oh. And I was like, this is not Alien versus Predator.
No, that was a good movie, though. I like Alien.
Better video game.
Okay. I'll believe you. I'm not going to play it.
It's really good.
Okay. But okay. Yeah. So I wanted to bank up all my energy for that. So I did. And all of my morning routine, not bending on my stretches. Okay. Yes, I bent on my stretches. I did my whole routine is what that means. I didn't convince myself, I don't have to do these 5 stretches because I'm out of time. I got to go. That's what I would used to do. So I've been doing all of my stretches for my physical therapist. I added all these, a few Qigong routines that also help with that. And I realized today, I'm I am not sore. I got 18,000 steps or something. I was not dragging behind. I used to have to be hey, you guys, I can't walk that fast. And it would just hurt. I feel energized. I have I don't know, my back doesn't feel 100%, but that is a huge milestone actually. When I went to Sick New World, this was, I guess 3 months ago. That was a 20,000 step day and I felt it. I was in so much pain for a few days afterwards. So I'm comparing these two experiences, man, this fucking rules.
Nice.
My back is on an upward trajectory of health and that feels great. I feel in 2020, I'll probably talk about this a little bit later because it comes up, but in the summer, leading up to and then after all my divorce stuff, me and my friend, we started teaching ourselves how to run because I was always no, I'm never gonna run. Fuck you, I never have to run, only to first base, whatever, softball. And I was you know what, why do I think like that? I can definitely limit myself when I'm stubborn. So me and my friend, we decided we would just meet up a couple times a week at 6:30 in the morning and just run intervals, whatever, systematic. I feel I could start that up again, which
nice.
That is next level because it is something I actually learned to enjoy, not just I'm suffering through this. I was I like the way this feels. So anyway, that's why I'm fucking fantastic.
That sounds fucking fantastic. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
That's a good spot to be in.
Yeah. I've had back problems my whole life on and off because I'm just tall and my boobs are giant and it's really hard to compensate for that sometimes. And, just lots of things. My back has gone out a few times, it just feels good to feel strong and healthy.
Yeah. I have never had giant boobs. They're just little pointy ones, but I have been overweight and tall my whole life. And then I did a not short stretch of my life doing a lot of boom operation work of, the microphone for movie stuff and never learned how to do that correctly. And yeah, my back's better now just from time, but I would say probably around my mid 30s, my back was fuck you. And I didn't think it would ever get better.
Yeah. Not a good feeling.
No.
So, okay. So that's how my Moxie meter is.
Nice.
And yeah.
That's good. Before we hop into it, I just wanted to remind our friends out there in podcast world that we do have a Patreon page. And if you would like to help support us to keep this show going, keep it on time, and so that we can expand and just generally get bigger and better, please go check us out at Patreon under Moxie Podcast.
Yeah.
And
please.
Any help you can give would really help us out.
Yeah.
I did have one. One thing I wanted to bring up that isn't even necessarily from last week's episode, but I noticed while I was editing last week's episode.
Okay.
So we have the little speech at the end, or at the beginning. It gets put in the beginning. We recorded at the end of the. So you've probably already heard it this week. I'm your host Ronnie, and
I'm Zanny.
Does that make it sound like I am the host and you're a co-host?
I never thought about that.
I never thought about that till I was listening, and I was like, because I don't want to give that impression.
I don't think you are. I didn't interpret it that way. I would say that this is pretty equal, so no.
All right, good. I just wanted to make sure because I don't know.
I don't ride in the sidecar. Listen,
that's what I don't. I don't like to. I don't like to be leading things.
I'm a driver.
Further, just because you said sidecar, one of my dreams in life is that a friend gets a motorcycle and decides to get a sidecar. And I would ride in that so much. But the prerequisite would be I get one of those helmets that has like the spike at the top and goggles. Oh, that's my dream life. And my friends are cowards who won't buy motorcycles with sidecars for me to ride in.
Are contingent on your friends.
I know. What a sad life I lead.
What a sad dream you have.
I know. Not even sleep is a release from my loserdom.
Jeez. Talk about RSD much?
I know. Maybe we should talk about RSD.
Maybe we should. That was not planned, but that was pretty good.
It was 100% planned. We know exactly what's going on every second of this show.
Yeah, they know. They've been listening. They know. So we're going to talk about rejection sensitivity dysphoria, also known as RSD. This paper says it's rejection sensitive dysphoria, which probably is accurate, but it doesn't sound right to us.
Rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
But let's call it RSD because I'm not saying that all fucking night. Like I have no desire to, because we'll talk about why I feel so strongly about that. There's science behind it. I feel so much better. Okay.
I love when science makes us feel better.
Yeah.
Not makes me realize I'm going to die one day.
Well, you can't get around that.
Yet.
Okay. Well, that's your real dream.
I guess so.
Yeah. Okay. So what is this you say?
What is this?
Okay. Reject RSD. I'm not saying that all night. I have taken more time to say that than to just say it, but I just
put a bookmark down if you want to hop back and see what it's called, but it's RSD from here on out.
Read the notes. We'll put it in there. Okay. So RSD is one manifestation of emotional dysregulation, which is in the diagnostic criteria for ADHD, the emotional dysregulation, not RSD. It is a common but misunderstood and under-researched symptom of ADHD in adults. Individuals with RSD feel unbearable pain as a result of perceived or actual rejection, teasing, or criticism that is not alleviated with cognitive or dialectical behavior therapy.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. So, just like the extreme internal sensation and reaction to mundane things. For example, if anyone remembers the episode where I dropped my pen and I freaked the fuck out for 5 seconds, that is RSD. Okay. I messed up. This has something to do with negative self-talk, which I didn't say in this, but we'll get there. It also is like extreme, like perfectionism or just like being really hard on yourself. We'll get there.
Also, I'd like to point out one of the things, or two of the things, is that this is different from other things that it sounds like. And it is, unlike a lot of stuff we talk about the show that kind of flows in different amounts throughout the entire spectrum of neurodivergence. This seems to be, or is almost entirely associated with ADHD.
Well, I mean, that's mixed.
Okay.
Like anyone could get it, but it's most commonly found in people with ADHD. Like that's the most common population, I guess. But anyone could have it, is what it said. But Yeah. I mean, I didn't read the actual study, so maybe they're just telling me that and I believe it.
Yeah. I will say the little bit of research I did on it said, to your point, anybody could get it, but it seemed most concentrated in people with ADHD. Mm-hmm. And generally, there are a lot of similar things to it, like anxiety or, confusingly, rejection sensitivity, just RS without the dysphoria, that does show up across the spectrum of neurodivergence a lot more. But we seem to be, what we're talking about specifically tonight, RSD, seems not exclusively to ADHD, but very very weighted towards ADHD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not a formal diagnosis, right? Like, it's not in the DSM even as a criteria. It just kind of is lumped under like, okay, you might be emotionally dysregulated. And this is just a form of that. Let's see.
Now, is that because it's fairly new, or is because it's it doesn't quite meet that criteria yet? Or is that...
Well, I mean, they just say it's covered because like there's been like a trend of the powers that be that make these diagnostic criteria.
The Illuminati, you can say.
Well, okay. So like emotion is pretty subjective and it's difficult to measure. So they really are kind of trying to steer away from using that as criteria, basically. Okay, so just in talking about diagnostic criteria for the DSM-5, which is what we use in the US, it's based on criteria made for children 6 through 12, and it's not actually even valid for anyone over 16, really. But the traditional diagnostic criteria intentionally avoid symptoms associated with emotion, thinking styles, relationships, sleeping, whatever, because they're hard to quantify.
Okay.
So that's why. And like the DSM criteria are basically useless for adults in diagnosing because it's just so different anyway.
Is this, now you're talking specifically for RSD?
No,
or for ADHD.
For ADHD,
because like, there is no diagnosis for RSD. That's a symptom.
Yeah, but like it belongs in the emotional dysregulation section. It could be like a very specific factor. It's just hard to quantify and hard to study because it's all about internal feelings and reactions to, I mean, I feel like you could see it. You could see it in kids because there are less masks and less inhibitions, let's say. Like, I think my freakouts are funny now because I do know how to talk myself through a lot of this shit, which I'm actually super glad that I can, because it used to not be like this and things were hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah. So to answer your question, they just don't want to deal with emotions like this because it's too hard to see. Because like this is a medical diagnosis, whereas a lot of things in the DSM, a mental health, like a therapist, a master's level, whatever, can use it and diagnose things. But like with medical diagnoses, they are especially specific,
right?
You know, which is weird. Why is it in this anyway? Yeah. I don't want to get started on the politics of all that shit because I don't love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we do get started on it, maybe in the last half hour of the show.
Yeah. Okay. So the one of the distinctive factors is that it is a brain-based symptom, and likely an innate feature of ADHD. And I mean, I guess I can get to this later too, but like they've now, like within the last 5 years, started researching this. So there you can see it there's two things in the brain, you know, with the amygdala and the frontal cortex. So like an overactive amygdala. I don't love saying all these fancy science words. Brains.
My back brain.
Yeah, my back brain and then my front brain. So like when your back brain is over, and I'm gonna get there later because I'm gonna fuck this up if I try to do this from memory. Right. But I found this all very fascinating, very validating. I feel less crazy because I mean, not in a misuse of that word. Like it does feel disproportionate.
Yes.
So.
Yes, and I will say, like, I know when this first crossed my path. It was when I was first diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. because I was diagnosed with as a child, and then re-diagnosed as an adult in probably my mid 30s or early 30s, and it was one of the things I came across, and it just like you said when you did research on it, when I first heard what it was, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah, and it does. It makes you, it is. I've probably used this before, but it's kind of one of those things that makes you realize you're a zebra, not a horse, and your stripes aren't really that weird. You're just different.
Yeah.
And that's helpful to know what you are, and that's part of you. And there's a reason for this, and there's stuff you can do to help it along to get in life. Nobody's saying it's like a blanket excuse for everything, but it's good to know that there's why you felt that way.
Yeah.
And you don't know as many people that maybe have.
Right. Like even like at work, I always thought it was like triggering. So maybe it's like the trigger event. It's not like triggering like I'm going to have like a meltdown over it. Well, a mini one.
It's always hard because usually it's like, anymore.
Well, I've also delegated this task. I don't want to fucking do it. But like ordering office supplies, like we're out of paper. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, okay, it does frustrate me with the lack of planning ahead, which is not necessarily on purpose. Okay. Like it doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
But just the fact that someone needs something now like that when I'm doing something else, I don't know. It just really frustrated me. And it's when it's completely out, like just for like maybe a minute if it's a rough one. Like I just am unreasonably angry and I don't ever see red. I just like things kind of go white and I just like it feels like I'm just like clawing on the inside, like scrape, like like nails on a chalkboard. Someone's fingernails are like digging into my skin, like like that's how it feels.
I will say I maybe there's maybe less rage involved in mine. But it's, and I didn't mean that, it is, I relate to that so hard because there are things that come up that should be filed under that sucks. And I'm like, I feel fucking hopeless about this now. I'm just like, hopeless is but that's how I feel about this thing that just kind of sucks. But, and sometimes, it's in combination, straw that broke the camel's back type deal is always there. But there are some things that they come up and they seem like relatively small things, but my brain is just like, nothing matters anymore because this didn't happen. And it's like, no, that sucks. Yeah. But like, you can say that out loud all you fucking want. It doesn't get rid of that feeling.
No.
And you're going to have to take extra steps to believe the truth that you're telling yourself that it just kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And that's just a mechanic of how the brain works.
For sure. I mean, I think if anyone's been listening, like you've actually probably heard me do this a lot when I talk about the dogs that are out there too loud, the motorcycles or the police that drive by. This is all fucking RSD.
That every week nobody can hear.
Right. Because they wipe it out. Not even you. Some program in the internet.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is the microphones are designed to record this general space. Our ears are designed to hear all around us.
Yes. Yeah, it just makes me unreasonably angry, but it fades quick. Like it doesn't make me in a bad mood. Like that's one of the key features of this. It's like the symptomology is virtually the same as a mood disorder, except for the diagnostic criteria and the length of time. Like you could have multiple of these in a day, whereas like in a mood disorder, they need to be present for like 2 weeks or whatever. There need to be X amount of episodes. There's no known trigger. But the symptoms are strikingly similar. But like mine now are generally like 10 seconds, versus like they could last seconds to maybe a couple hours if it's a bad one or, you've never tried to work on it or know how, something like that.
And all of that, all of this information is new to me, but that makes total sense. Just like the second you frame it like that, because all those things are true. I will say it is one of those things where the disease is part of the cure, because having ADHD, it's hard to hold on to anything for that long. And so it does kind of help that, and I'm not saying it never happens where you won't let go of that feeling that, but it does kind of, at least me sometimes, it'll be like, oh, I feel, and I'll spiral real quick. And then, a fucking, like I recently, and this is dumb, I recently found out that when you flush the toilet, it's water pushing down, not water getting sucked out. That it is a vortex, not a suction. And that just blows my fucking mind. And I can't. So like, I know this is dumb. If I hit one of those things within an hour, I'll be like, but there's nothing at the bottom of a toilet sucking it down. It's just getting pushed down. But which is just a silly example, but it is those type of thing of sometimes it's helpful to have ADHD to help fight the bad parts of ADHD. Yeah,
definitely. All right. So dysphoria is a Greek word meaning unbearable. And that's the key feature. So like, okay, it's seconds to hours of like that, whatever that extreme feeling is.
Yeah.
And then it probably moves into like something else. If you're holding on to it, it might go into like a more manageable or like not as like literally painful.
Yeah. Well, and I would say like extreme is a good word for it, but would like unwarranted also be in there?
I don't know.
All right.
Same word.
Because there is like sometimes, like I just said, of like, of something will hit you. It's like, this sucks. I know that it's just something that really sucks. But right now this is completely destroying me. Which is, I guess, also an extreme feeling. But,
yes. Yeah. I think extreme probably covers it because it covers whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
It is just like the most of whatever it is that you're dealing with. But okay. Its use emphasizes the severe physical and emotional pain suffered by people with RSD when they encounter real or perceived rejection, criticism, or teasing, or a few other things I'll talk about later. The intensity is described by some as like a wound. The response is well beyond all proportion to the nature of the event that triggered it, like my fucking pen falling on the ground. And
that sounds a lot like unwarranted.
Yeah. And I know it. This is unfucking reasonable and I can't stop it.
Yeah.
And like, I think I said that on here. And now I know absolutely I can't stop that. I can see it happening and I'm like, this is so inconsequential. It does not matter. Like my mom was like, everyone makes mistakes. And I'm like, this is not that. I get it. Okay. Yes.
That's a conversation we can have when it calms down.
Well, no, like this is not when I was escalated ever. It's just like, because I was telling her, sometimes I just get really mad if I don't close the door all the way and I have to go back and close it all the way. It doesn't matter what the door is. And she's like, but everyone makes mistakes. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't. I'm not mad at myself for doing this. I'm just mad that I have to go back and redo it.
Right.
And it just makes me unreasonably angry. I don't know. I know people make mistakes. Yeah. I do often. This is not even a mistake. I'm not registering it this way. I am registering something I absolutely do not want to do. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. My mom, thank you for the advice. You are correct. That's not this.
I think it is one of those things where it was like, when you're going through that, it's like, I want everybody to know right now, I am the person least happy with my emotional reaction and how I'm dealing with this. I don't like that I'm doing this either. But that's what it is. That's where my brain is right now. And this is me trying to stop it. Oh, you don't want to see me if I just let it go.
Oh yeah. Which I think this was shaped in early childhood. I've never directed this towards another person, at least in reality. There are many reasons why. Mostly I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Like, I do understand that these things are usually no one's fault. And I don't want to take anything out on another person. And there's some other formative shit in there that, That's not how I do things. I'm not confrontational either like that.
Right.
Now it's not like I'm confrontational. Now I'm not afraid of confrontation or having to talk about something head on directly.
Yeah, well, and I think you're also more blunt than most, but it doesn't. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm just weird.
No,
it never feels confrontational to me. It just feels like, oh, okay, that was said bluntly.
Yeah, I've gotten that feedback many times, so I don't think it's just you. And mostly people receive it well because somehow they just understand me because it's not rude.
No, well, like I said, when I went on vacation and I had an absolute blast with my family. I love my family and it was great. We had a great time on vacation, but then I had a meeting with you afterwards and I was like, it's nice to talk to somebody else with the neurodivergence that it's just, or an adult with the neurodivergence, because my kids both have it, but where it was a relief to just kind of cut through some of those social things and just say things.
Yeah.
Because that's how I understand how to speak a lot better. And so it was a relief to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I know other people, the neurotypicals, don't like that as much.
No. Well, yeah, it's true. I can't speak to their experience. Okay. So yeah, it just means extra, like it just feels unbearable for whatever length of time that it is happening. Which when I heard of RSD the first time, I was like, oh, I don't have rejection sensitivity. I'm callous. I didn't even think I was callous. I really think I thought I was like just thick-skinned, which I kind of am in some situations. I can't be like, I'm emotional and sensitive about everything. Like there are certain things just like with everybody, right? But I had just had this idea of myself that I have thick skin and things don't bother me. But that's an easier way for me to conceptualize myself than actually I'm kind of fucking sensitive. And I just don't want to deal with feelings ever. But now I'm just going to let it happen. So.
Well, yeah. And two, part of it though is like, you're thick skinned because you've had a lifetime of building up defense, I think that is kind of one of the neat things about the journey into discovering your neurodivergence. Is you kind of do start recalculating these things about yourself, not only on the sense of is it weird or is it that, but like I always thought of myself as a pretty well thought out person, and someone would ask me, oh, do you think you're impulsive? I'd be like, no, I overthink things. And then they had me play that stupid video game. And I was like, I'm always over impulsive about this. And you start to realize that you've built up these ideas of what sensitivity are or what impulsion is. Impulsion?
Oh.
Impulsiveness. There we go. Impulsiveness is. And, but you kind of realize that they're broader and how they do affect you, even though you would have never associated yourself under that thing, because you kind of still don't associate yourself as what you thought it was.
Right.
But you do realize the umbrella is definitely bigger than you thought, and you're definitely under it.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I do think I'm sensitive about what I thought it was. Because now I'm letting my feelings happen. I hate it, but I'm letting it happen because I don't want to get stuck. I want to continue to grow.
Yeah. And also hating it is part of letting it happen.
Yeah. I hate it as it happens versus I hate it, I avoid it.
Yeah.
Those
are two very different forms of hate, though.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. It took 40 years. But we're not talking about that. Okay. So common triggers, rejection. So also, or defined as the real or perceived withdrawal of love, approval, or respect.
Yeah. And like, I think when you say like words like rejection, it was like when you get broken up with or something, and it's like,
bye, goodbye.
Yeah. But like, or, you're not mom and dad's favorite. I don't know. But you always think of like big things like that when you think of rejection. But like, I think part of it is that you can, it's very small rejections that can get you. You know, it could be literally, I'm trying to think of a small menial thing.
Like if a kid is just like not wanting to say hi to you, like that's your child. Like they're in a mood. I don't know.
That certainly falls under it. But like to me, even it could be like, oh, you know, hey, how have you been? And it's like, oh, you know, remember my dad's sick or something like that. Just something I forgot. And then I asked a person, and they'll not hold that against me for forever, but I'll hold that against me for a very, very long time. Or here's one. I think I've told this story on the show before. One time, I was at a place that had different booths, and I was talking to somebody who is a trans woman.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end, I said, "Okay, thanks, man," and walked away. And like, that still fucking shakes me to my core. And it was, you know, a little thing, and I'm sure she doesn't even. I hope she doesn't even remember it. But it just felt like, and I really, really hate that I said that. I stick with it. But yeah,
this would be under the category of persistent self-criticism or negative self-talk prompted by a real or perceived failure. You failed to acknowledge gender.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Like that's the biggest one for me.
I'd say this one is this category is the biggest category for me easily.
Yeah. I am so hypercritical of myself. I'm really trying to be more kind. I'm trying to treat myself as well as I treat others. On the inside, because I don't think I externally read that way. I think I read as a confident, knows what she's doing person, which sometimes true.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you can be a confident, know what you're doing person and still have those things. These things can exist within, you know, it's the binary hardly ever does anybody any good.
Yeah, that's true.
Regardless of what binary it is.
For sure. But yeah, like that one is like the most, like I always beat myself up. It's less now because I'm really trying to cognizantly like attend to this and redo it. I redo a lot of things in my head, but like in this sense that I mean, not out of self-criticism, but out of like self-love. Like, you know, I tell myself this is and it's so fucking cringe, and probably no one even will think this, but like I have to tell myself, I don't have to, but I do. I write it. I love how sensitive you are. And a few other things, but like it's so cringy to like say out loud, but I say it because like the more I say it, the more I write it, you know, the more I'll believe it, and then it just won't be so cringy.
Yeah. I mean, here, I'll match you in cringiness.
Okay.
Or I don't know, match. I will add to that pile. When I see my reflection, I tell myself I look cool, because that was not something I could tell myself for a very, very long time. And that a really in his head, just wanting to disappear kid grew into somebody that if nobody else in the world thinks he looks cool, he thinks he looks cool. That's important to me. Or that's a kind of self-care that I think I deserve to give myself.
Yeah.
So, so I'll add my cringy thing too.
Cool.
Of just know if I'm seeing my own reflection, I'm like, hey, handsome.
Yeah. And this is part of unmasking in real time. And is this vulnerability?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is. We're taking a
I've
chance
been
because
a lot.
I mean, somebody could get hold of this and make fun of us for it. And then we would feel that rejection sensitivity. I would love to say, I like to think that most times especially now, there's been other times in my life where it hasn't been, but I will feel the hurt of a thing and then keep doing. I won't let it persuade me, but I can't pretend like the hurt isn't there.
Yeah. I would like to say Well, that's just also we're choosing to put this in the public eye, so that's kind of what we get, which is true, but it probably would sting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think that's also kind of part of the reason that we do this. I think that's kind of what this has grown into and I've always at some level been of unmasking and trying not to hate ourselves. And also, for the people who watch and listen to us to join us on that journey and take it on their own and know that if you're out there and your brain does these things that are different than most people's brains do, that there's other folks, they're going through it too. And it's not as weird as you may think. And the weird that it is pretty cool sometimes.
Yeah. The other two that they put in this, like the most common triggers. Okay. Teasing, which I would probably have said, oh, teasing doesn't bother me because I didn't really get teased often. There have been a few incidences and they did bother me. So I would say that probably is true.
Yeah. I also didn't get teased a lot. I think we've been through this before on the show, but like, I think it seemed I was so like chronically quiet, that teasing me just kind of automatically put you as a bully. There wasn't really another way around it. And yeah, but I teasing to me never felt good. Obviously, I've never been one of those people that's like, oh, I thrive on it. But I think I've kind of always been more concerned about and we've talked about this before, the being misunderstood thing.
Yeah.
Of if somebody's going to make fun of me because I'm fat, then like it's going to hurt my feelings. But also I know that what they're doing is wrong. It's easy to point that as wrong. I have a much harder time when I do something and it's perceived as doing something callously, when I did something impulsively, because,
Yeah, I do that often too.
Yeah, I never meant to hurt you.
I'm sure whoever they are is okay. The last one, criticism, no matter how constructive. I do struggle with it. I can take it, and I know it's good for me. And actually, as long as it's coming from a source that is either I have to listen to it because it's work or someone in a position of power in my life, which I guess that's me now. Right. But for a long time it was not. Or like someone I respect and I've asked. I do ask for feedback a lot actually, because I need like an in the moment gauge on what is going on. Otherwise I don't know. So now I've just taken to just asking like, hey, am I on track? Am I this? Am I, not because I'm obsessed with myself, but it's because I don't know. And I would like to make sure that I'm not acting weird. But like if someone just out of the blue offers some kind of criticism or just tells me how to run my life and I'm like, well, I don't like how you run your life. So no, thank you. Like those ones are kind of funny, but there are some where I'm just like, my ears are burning. I want to fucking throw up and punch and claw my own eyes out.
There's this woman I follow on TikTok who very specifically goes to Guitar Center and then sets up her thing to record herself. And she's like, I'm going to play songs slightly wrong until a man comes up and tells me how to play it right. And like literally the first video she did, some bro comes up and starts talking to her about how she can correct it and then goes into cryptocurrency. And it just reminded me when you said somebody out of the blue comes up.
Oh, that's really out of the blue.
Yeah. Well, and to acknowledge that there are those other dynamics involved with things. I will say on the what's the subject we're talking about?
RSD?
No, zoom in more on the criticism. On the criticism, and I'm actually, this depends on how well I know myself, but I believe I'm pretty good with criticism. Not perfect, but it is a very that's been a very specifically learned thing on my end that I have spent, I was going to say years, but probably decades doing, because I have been artists in collaborative art forms. And so, in high school, I had different bands I was in, and that's a collaborative art form. Like, criticism has to go back and forth different ways. By the way, not as good at it, and took it much harsher in high school. In college and out of college, I worked. I did a lot of stuff in film, which is the most collaborative art form that I could think of, and I did it with a group of people that. First of all, the size would vary depending on project, but it was the ability for us to ever have any shot of doing this in real life depended on our ability to collaborate with each other, and in order to find, that kind of like somebody brings up point A, somebody brings up point B. We talk it out, and usually we'll find a point C that was better than either point A or point B. And that became a necessity. And I was able to do it with people I was very close to, people I loved like brothers. But so I am better at taking criticism now than I think I would have been had I not had that trajectory in life. But it is very much learned painstakingly over the course of decades.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you can work on things, It's not like, okay, well, yep, I've got RSD, so you just have to deal with my BS.
Yeah.
So, okay. The new mood sweeps in immediately, and it matches the individual's perception of the trigger, not the actual trigger. If these triggered emotions are internalized, this person can instantaneously appear as if they have a full major mood disorder syndrome. Complete with suicidal thinking. If the feelings are externalized, they are commonly expressed as a rage at the person or the situation that wounded them so severely. I'm a rager at the situation, apparently, and I go inward too.
Yeah, I was gonna say
no suicidal ideation. I'm stuck here.
I will say this. And this is something I talk about with my therapist and is well under control. I do suffer from passive suicidal ideation.
I wish I was dead. Like that. Sorry, we don't have to talk about this.
No. Without getting too, because it is. I do want to open about it. The amount of times I imagine I'm in no. I keep an eye on it. No river's so straight that it doesn't have a turn in it somewhere. I definitely keep an eye on it. But I don't contemplate killing myself. I do imagine killing myself, depending on the time frame in my life, on a daily basis. And they're not going to turn into, hopefully it doesn't turn that corner into active suicidal ideations. And I've taken precaution, and we've talked about suicide on the show very much. Always feel free to look out. There are, I believe, 998 or 988 is the National Suicidal Hotline. One of those two. But you can get help. Always, if nothing else, reach out to a stranger. Because I know sometimes it may be hard to reach out to people in your life. I haven't gotten to that point yet. But like, even though, by all stretches of the imagination, I'm not going to kill myself. I don't love having those thoughts in my head every time something goes wrong. I don't love, when a fucking download corrupts and then I'm thinking about ending my life. It's not fun. And again, thinking about and contemplating are two very different things in this scenario.
And this is very much the way you're describing it. it's the extreme of that emotion. Like you just feel that way so much that, you imagine killing yourself, and it is not proportionate, but it still happens. And that's RSD. I'm assuming, you have no means, no plan. So you're fine.
No. But not only do I have no means or no plan, I have plans in place for should I start to think of means or a plan.
Great. Okay. So outward signs. This would be if you're just encountering people that do what we do. You might see sudden emotional outbursts following a real or perceived criticism or rejection. I mean, you see this is where it may not only be tied to ADHD in, I mean, incel is kind of a far, maybe not that, but like, when someone just gets so bummed out, let's just some guy hits on some girl at a bar or something, and then she's like, "Ew, no," and then he just like freaks out or something. I don't know if I've seen it. I've seen this in a movie.
I don't know if that's necessarily. I think that may be something that looks like it, or maybe it can show it. But I wouldn't say that. I would be careful that we don't insinuate that is what that is, because a lot of times that is just a weird sense left over that men are deserved the time and attention from women.
Maybe, huh?
Which that's a separate thing. In which they're obviously nobody owes anybody their time and attention. But yeah, it could end up. There could be things that look like that, I would think.
Yeah. Okay. Withdrawal from social situations. Negative self-talk and thoughts of self-harm. I don't know how you exhibit that. Oh yeah, no, I just say these things out loud sometimes. You fucking idiot. Like,
yeah, it's true. I've never been one, but I've known cutters in my life.
Oh yeah,
more than a few. People very close and dear to me, and it is weird to understand that dynamic. And I'm not even saying, and also, cutting could be something that fits into this, but lots of people from all kinds of things are cutters. There's probably a better term. Honestly, I've just never thought to use them. But it is very strange, because I've known people that are cutters that it is completely a release. There's no thoughts of suicide involved or something. It is just a way that they can find control. And I've known people that, it's them getting very close to trying, and yeah. So it does become a complicated thing.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it could, in this situation anyway, like the physical version of negative self-talk, just possibly. Yeah. I don't know. I've never thought about that for myself. Okay, the next one. Avoidance of social settings in which they might fail or be criticized. For this reason, RSD is often hard to distinguish from social anxiety disorder.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
just cosmically, I love the fact that social anxiety disorders sad.
Yeah. Low self-esteem and poor self-perception. Yep. I don't have low self-esteem anymore. I mean, maybe sometimes. I mean, I think it fluctuates.
Yeah, I think. Well, and I think esteem also might be a thing that maybe needs to break out of the binary of low and high. Of like,
I know I'm being used, but that's okay. It's not. We're not karaoke. No. Stop. Fucking idiot. See, that's where I would say that. Yeah.
No, and I that was one of my formative albums, and I really loved The Offspring. I don't know that this necessarily ties back, but I do think songs like that maybe led to me romanticizing in my early relationships not being treated fairly. Like, no, that's just how you show love when you're a boy. You get treated unfairly and you deal with it. Stoicism. like being a man, right? And that's clearly not it. That's not where it's at.
No.
There's no 2 turntables and a microphone. Should we
back.
make more 90s references while we're at it?
You know what? Well, you know what?
Huh.
Maybe people will know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people I work with don't.
I
mean, everyone just feels so young these days.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I find myself comically, and I love it, but yeah, I'm one of the older ones now.
This is one of the weird things to me, and like when you think about it logically, not really that surprising. When I talk to someone who doesn't really remember 9/11, that there are adults out here that either weren't born or were just so young they don't like I loved Nirvana. Nirvana is one of the bands that changed my life. Mm-hmm. Truthfully, though, I got into them when I was about 12 years old, and Kurt Cobain died when I was 10. I don't really remember when Kurt Cobain died all that much. And I know 9/11 was bigger than Kurt Cobain dying for most people. No, but it is, you know, so I understand, you know, if that happened when a kid was 5 or 6 or 2, that they might not remember 9/11 all that much, but mm-hmm. it is weird on the time frame that we live in a time where adults just don't remember 9/11 happening.
Yeah. And you know, people said that about every older generation is going to say that. It's just how it is. Okay. Constant harsh and negative self-talk that leads them to become their own worst enemy. That was me for a very long time. As I said, I've worked on a lot of stuff.
Also, I like to think that I have tried to cultivate a life and a circle of people where being my own, like that hopefully there's not too much competition to be my own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. Like hopefully I don't have a person out there who just fucking hates my guts besides me.
Yeah.
And I know there's plenty of people out there that are none too fond of me, but also I've managed to pull them out of my life. So hopefully, you know, they're not thinking about me that much. 'Cause also I don't want to be a thorn in anybody's side.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure people don't like me. I can't recall, but it's not because I'm so great. It's just because I wasn't interested. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Rumination and perseveration. So
ooh, I don't know what either of those words mean.
Okay. I had to look up rumination. That's like, low key obsessing about something, kind of like also the, you know, misgendering situation maybe for you. Mm-hmm. Perseveration means, you can think about it as like a person who's like a dog with a bone. Like they just can't let something go. And they just continue, they just go. And it's not even like, it's not even always like in anger, you know. Perseveration is also very prevalent in like autism.
Yes.
That it's like it can be a behavior that you track and, you know, try to reshape or redirect or whatever, as well, depending on how invasive it is.
Right. Well, and two, I think a lot of it has, if it's not the same, there's probably a lot of, on the Venn diagram, a lot of overlap. But a lot of times people talk about autistic folks or autism having a strong sense of justice. And I think part of that is true, that you get that idea of like, no, I need to do the right thing. I need to do, which kind of sounds like that dog in the bone. It's like, but this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. And I'd say one thing we do have to be careful of, though, is that the strong sense of justice thing doesn't make you magical. You could still be wrong. Like it doesn't make you like inherently know what justice is, but it does make you kind of obsess on doing, like, not want to do that. Like kind of like we don't want to be misunderstood of that like, no, I need to do the right thing. This is the right thing. Mm-hmm. You just have to make sure that thing that you need to do, that you feel compelled to do, that is the right thing, actually is the right thing.
Yeah. You could also see this as, if you're not looking at it from like a moral perspective, or maybe something more clear. Because if someone doesn't have that, then maybe I'm thinking maybe that won't be as clear necessarily, but like, just like drilling your point home no matter what, even if it's, pit bulls are the best dogs ever, just like really just making sure that everybody knows why and not letting it go.
Yeah.
Or something. Which I do love pit bulls. I'm not a huge, I love dogs on an individual basis. Like I appreciate their personality and everything. It's just like, I don't gravitate towards wanting to have one. That's it.
Yeah. Well, this is something I've said a lot of times of like, I feel the way about dogs that a lot of people feel about kids. I love other people's dogs. I don't want one in my house.
Yeah.
Not because I hate dogs. There's nothing wrong with it. That's not the set of responsibilities that jives well with my life. But if it works for you, then I'm going to go visit your dog all the time.
Yeah. The last point, relationship problems, especially feeling constantly attacked and responding defensively. I will say this. I definitely have had relationship problems because because of a lot of RSD stuff, plus a lot of other things that were going on, that were not under my control.
Right.
But I would not say I felt, I would say I was feeling constantly attacked, but not like, oh, you're attacking me. It was a very different type of attacking. I would not literally respond defensively. I would just like harbor resentments and just like bide my time. Not even like to do anything, just to like get through another second. So maybe that's not it. Maybe that's just trauma response. I don't know.
Well, I was going to say it is hard because a lot of other stuff comes there. Like, because I know through various relationships I've had, romantic and other, through life, and this is something I've talked about on here a lot. In the moment, I have a very hard time making the judgment call on whether or not what somebody's saying about me is true. I have a very hard time. And so most times I will kind of automatically go to, at least in the moment until I think about it later, and be able to come to saying like, oh, they're probably right about me. And then a lot of those other rejection sensitive dysphoria, the hateful self-talk, the blah, blah, blah. But I would say, that's happened more than a handful of times. And I will say across romantic, familial, and friendship relations.
I think maybe what this is getting at, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, is like, the people that always seem to have drama, this doesn't seem like it's necessarily like deep rooted as far as like maybe the type of relationship problems that I had. Not that mine are so deep, but they were just very different and very specific.
It kind of feels, I guess this is, if I were to describe it, it feels like if Planko,
no.
the what do you call it? The Price is Right game, where you take little things.
I've not watched that. I've never seen a whole episode.
Okay. It's a game where you take like discs and you drop them through slots in the top, and then it just bounces down.
Okay.
Pachinko machines.
Oh, I know pachinko machines from Weird Al.
Oh, okay. My grandfather actually was like weirdly big fan of pachinko machines. He was like a Mexican immigrant and loved pachinko machines. But you know how it like bounces down and ends in a random spot. I feel like that's kind of, especially by the time you get to our age, with as many masking things as we've learned along the line, that in these relationship things, you can have that ball and it's going to block over to self-hatred during an argument or a perceived
withdrawal of love.
Yeah. And sometimes it is going to plop into denial. Sometimes it's going to plop into some of the other things under that particular point. And I don't know. I don't know how much is that really just doesn't happen as much for me, or versus how much is like that's harder to admit about yourself. So maybe I'm not admitting that as much about myself. I'm sure it's happened. But it is harder to think of off the top of my head. But I think we all kind of have a bias of trying to remember the times we did better, maybe. I don't know. So I guess what I'm saying is I can totally see that one being valid. I can't really think of instances in my life off the top of my head, though I'm sure it has.
Right, but maybe it's not a thing for you. You don't have to have all of these.
That's true.
So, like, I'm imagining, like, someone who's like, oh, you don't even love me because blah, 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 just, like, verbalizing the RSD of it all, like, giving it that space and making it someone else's problem, too.
No, and that does sound... That sounds like something I would say in my head very quickly. Yeah. And probably until I worked it out, maybe that would come through in my actions. Because folks with neurodivergence, not famous for being able to hide our emotions.
Or articulate them.
Yeah. But yeah. No, everything's fine. Why would you say things aren't fine? Things are better than fine. They're great.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine.
Right.
You can't see it, but my eye was twitching. All right. I think this is a good stopping point. There's a lot more to talk about with this, and I'm actually more excited to talk about this than I thought I would be. So I think we can do a part 2. I'm
all for that.
Juice it up next week. All right. Well, if you enjoyed any bit of that, learned something, whatever, feel free to like, rate, subscribe wherever you're listening, watching, whatever.
Here comes the test. Can she do it?
No. Oh. Where am I?
You want to use your notes?
Like, rate. Oh, here they are. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. So you
fucking moron. No.
Fucking idiot. I was like seriously sitting like, oh my fucking Lord. Like, I am so stupid, which very clearly I am just off track because I am highly distractible. Mm-hmm. And I think I can do things and then I get in my head about it a little and here we are. Okay, so it would be really cool if you would leave us a 5-star review, something with words would be better. We could read them on air and you could get famous because we're famous. Yeah. Duh. If you would like to follow us on social media, you can do so on Instagram and TikTok at InnerMoxiePod. You can email us, send us your thoughts, myinnermoxiepod@gmail.com. Yeah. You can please, again, talk to us on Patreon.
Yeah.
Give us money there, actually, though. That would be nice. Yeah. Let's just cut the shit. Like, we want to make a better show for you. So we would like some money for that.
Yeah. And I mean, like, to what we were talking about earlier, we are kind of like, one of our hopes here is to foster a sense of community. Yeah, and we would like to be able to make that happen.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, you could also follow me on Instagram if you'd like. I am at Xanism, Zannism. I am a religion and a disease.
And then I sadly am not a religion or a disease, but I am on the socials. I'm most active over on TikTok. You can find me at Band Ronnie. You can also listen to my other podcast, the Band Media Podcast.
Yep. And do all of that and then stay fresh, cheese bags. Bye.
Later.